All right, the time is 6:01. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3.02, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Lemon and seconded by Ms. Ewers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. And just so the audience knows, Ms. Trejo is absent for the ASBA conference that we'll all be joining her tomorrow at. Item 4.01, approval and modification of minutes from the May 17th, 2023 Governing Board meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes 4-0. Item 402, approval modification of minutes from the May 17th, 2023 executive session. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes 4-0. It was very equitable motions being made. Thank you. Item 5.01, approval of consent agenda. May I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes 4-0. And we're going to turn the time over to Dr. Uxa, who has some presentations of new employees for us.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Driscoll. I would like to highlight an individual you approved on this personnel summary tonight. You have approved Ms. Carolyn McCleary to the position of Director of Early Childhood, and I'd like to share a little bit about her background. Carolyn has earned her master's degree in educational administration from Grand Canyon University, a master's degree in elementary education from Northern Arizona University, and a Bachelor of Science Recreation Management from Arizona State University. Carolyn brings an extensive background in education as a teacher, a media specialist, a reading specialist, a founder of Strong Foundation Academy, and most recently, an early childhood coordinator for the Tempe School District. To those who know Carolyn, admire her creativity and her belief in her students. She prides herself on her volunteer work for school committees and planning groups. Carolyn has displayed her passion and devotion to her work by consistently working on fine-tuning her skills. Congratulations, Carolyn McCleary.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Driscoll. It has been my pleasure to serve the families of TD3 as the Early Childhood Programs Coordinator, and I look forward to continuing my work with the district as the Director of Early Childhood. My goal is to bring affordable early childhood education to the children of Tempe. When I talk to the families that are enrolling their children, I hear their stories about struggling to pay for early childhood education, and it's my mission to find solutions to this issue. We currently have 60 students enrolled in a no-cost kindergarten jumpstart program this summer at Broadmoor and Nevitt. We're in the process of making all of our preschools DES licensed childcare providers in order to offer the families the childcare subsidy for their early childhood education. We're going to be opening our new kindergarten prep program at 3 of our schools, and we're very excited about that as well. We were also recently awarded 2 grants worth $125,000 each. To improve the outdoor learning and play areas at Shamley and Frank. And we've received $58,500 in grants from Quality First, which we use to purchase new classroom materials for our preschool program. Thank you so much for entrusting me with this important role of serving the youngest learners and their families. It's my passion to ensure our students get a strong start to their educational careers. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And now I know what a big role Mike Mangini has here. Again, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Driscoll. I would like to highlight an individual you have also approved on the personnel summary tonight. Tonight, you approved Mrs. Browyn Sternberg to the position of principal of Shamley School, and I'd like to share a little bit about her background. Browyn has earned her Master of Education in Educational Leadership from Northern Arizona University and her bachelor's degree in elementary education from Arizona State University. Browyn started her career in education serving as an elementary school teacher. She has also served in the capacity of an associate principal, athletic director, and most recently, an assistant principal in the Scottsdale Unified School District. Those who know Browyn have shared that she is a team-focused leader who will utilize the strengths of her staff and take pride in the job she does. She is a solution-oriented individual who seeks to continually grow and develop her skills while staying passionate about providing her students with the best education possible. She is thrilled to be part of the Tempe Elementary School District and ready to build a lasting relationship with our staff, our students, and our community. We are confident that she will be an asset to our district. Congratulations to Mrs. Browyn Sternberg.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam President. Good evening, members of the board, and good evening, Dr. Driscoll. It is a pleasure to be here this evening, and I am grateful for the opportunity to become principal at Shamley School and part of the TD3 family and community. I would like to thank my family who is here this evening, my husband Lonnie, my son Alston, and my daughter Adelaide, who have supported me along my leadership journey. I look forward to the excitement ahead as we prepare to welcome students and staff to the campus for our new year. I look forward to building relationships with those in the Shamley community as well. Thank you again, and I look forward to embarking on this new chapter. Thank you so much.
My work is done.
Thank you, Dr. Oxa. Welcome all to the Tempe Elementary family. We're happy to have you guys. Along with the highlights that we have from the consent agenda, I also want to highlight that we approved the Frank Elementary students and staff receiving free prepackaged popcorn from Harkins, valued at over $1,200. Approval for Geneva Epps Mosley Middle School teacher and a Scales Technology Academy teacher to accept the Concord Construction Teacher Appreciation Giveaway, valued at $1,700. And I think, did I miss it? The approval of all Tempe Elementary School districts to receive a donation of a gift basket valued at $2,200, and Curry Elementary to accept a monetary donation of $4,500 from Central Christian Church in Tempe. Thank you all, and thank you for our wraparound services for making sure all of this happens. We really appreciate it. Okay, moving on to 601, presentation for the Thrive program.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board and Dr. Driscoll. My role as Director of Wraparound Services is to partner with any outside entity to secure services, materials, and experiences for our students. Many of our district partnerships are focused on promoting good health and well-being. This would include strategies and intervention for substance abuse. This evening, I would like to update you briefly on interventions this school year and propose a very generous partnership for the 2023-24 school year. As you know, the best approach to prevention includes an awareness component, a parent component, education of the facts, resources, and drug diversion programming if needed. Earlier this year, Thomas Forsythe, I already wore one out, okay. Earlier this year, Thomas Forsythe from the U.S. District Attorney's Office and Tommy Morga from the Arizona National Counter-Drug Task Force presented on the dangers of fentanyl in the Tempe community to you, the board. At that time, it was requested to hold free additional community events to inform and give strategies for prevention to parents and guardians on the dangers of fentanyl and substances. Community presentations were implemented at both Mosley Middle School in February of this year and at Frank Elementary in March. The location for these presentations were chosen to maximize and advertise community participation across the Tempe School District. All right, and so beginning in late September, Wraparound Services began partnering with the Tempe Coalition on initiatives to prevent substance abuse in our community and to limit youth access to dangerous drugs. By partnering with the Tempe Coalition, our district now is provided with a wealth of resources. And next, to assist our families and our students that are disciplined for being under the influence or caught with an illegal substance, the Tempe Elementary School District has entered a formal agreement with the agency Not My Kid. The program is called Project Rewind, designed to get students back in school quickly with a mandatory instructional component for both parents and students. At the end of instruction, the family can request additional support. This program is completely free for the parent and for our district, provided by a grant. This drug diversion option will begin in the 2023-24 school year with an option to continue the following school year. So this evening, I am pleased to bring Tommy Morga from the Arizona National Counter Drug Task Force back to the board to introduce the Thrive Resilience Program. The learning objectives of this program are tied to the Arizona Department of Education and the National Health Education Teaching Standards and would be facilitated over 5 consecutive lessons to our 8th grade students. The program is designed to promote protective factors, decision-making, and problem-solving that inspire healthy alternatives to high-risk behaviors. This program and materials would be funded by a grant by the Tempe Coalition, and lessons would be delivered by members of our National Guard. The Thrive model is intentional about creating a positive atmosphere that addresses unhealthy behavior while encouraging participants to see their value and focus on solutions and internalize that healthy lifestyle. Our hope is to implement this intervention beginning in October. At this time, I'd like to invite Tommy and Bernadette from the Tempe Coalition and from the National Guard to come up and talk to you a little bit more about the program.
Hi, thank you so much, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Driscoll. I'm Bernadette Coggins with the Tempe Coalition to reduce underage drinking and drug use. I'll start with just our mission is that all Tempe youth are living to their full potential. And our mission is to reduce youth risk behaviors and promote health and wellness through awareness, education, advocacy, and connecting to community resources, which is part of why we're here today. Tempe Coalition to Reduce Underage Drinking and Drug Use emerged from a long history of groups working to address issues surrounding substance misuse by providing the education and outreach to the Tempe community that it serves. The work started in 1996, and we became the coalition in 2009 through the Drug Free Communities Grant. The coalition is grant funded, and we're comprised of residents and professionals who live and work in our community and strive to collectively improve the city of Tempe by advocating for the reduction of youth risk behaviors. We represent a diverse representation of community members in sectors such as business, media, law enforcement, schools, substance use providers, youth, parents, youth-serving organizations, civic groups, healthcare professionals, faith-based organizations, and governmental agencies. With that, we get these amazing grants, and our job is to fill gaps and to work with partners such as Michelle to be able to provide areas of funding for programs such as Thrive, any sort of substance misuse presentations, flyers, information, resources for the community. And so with that, we feel very privileged to be able to serve the community, to serve Tempe Elementary. We partner with all of our school districts, and again, working with National Guard and partners such as Tommy Morga. Again, we all continue to learn a lot. So with that, I just want to thank you for working with us, and remember tempecoalition.org, and we're always looking for members to come to our meetings.
All right, good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Driscoll. Thank you for allowing me to come back. I really appreciate it. When Michelle offered the opportunity to come back and talk about Thrive, I couldn't wait to come here and talk to you guys again. Right, I know we had a really good conversation, hopefully educate a little bit about the problems of fentanyl in the area, in the state of Arizona. But I'm here to talk about what can we do to help our kiddos, right? And that's kind of exactly what we're here for, to talk about Thrive, talk about building resiliency within our youth. And that's exactly what we're here for. So let me kind of get right into it. What Thrive is, all right? It is an evidence-supported and trauma-informed. It is currently being peer-reviewed by students from GCU to make this actually evidence-based. We always want to try to give the best curriculum possible for our youth, and definitely, especially if it's evidence-based going forward, right? And so, again, some of the challenges that you can see there in the juniors and seniors, junior high and senior high schools, they focus on the risk and protective factors. And the biggest thing with that is a lot of times they have no idea that they're in a risk environment. And so through this curriculum, that's how we bring that out. We're able to say, hey, this is not normal maybe where you think you're supposed to be. They may live in an environment that is not suited for a lot of people. And when they come to school, that's their safe place, right? So we try to focus on that and let them have a platform. And that's kind of what we do through Thrive, is get them talking and get them have a platform to say how they're really feeling. And that's kind of how we're able to do that. It is in a lot of, as you can see right there, it is in a lot of different states across the nation. And so it's making a lot of headway. So for the 22-23 school year, our team specifically was in over 20 schools. I think it was like 21, 22 schools. And we were able to reach almost 3,500 students through this curriculum itself. And the engagements, 26,000 engagements. That means going back 9 different times. And so we are switching the curriculum to a 5-day curriculum, and staying to the validity of the actual curriculum itself. But just that way we're able to get in, have that really good, deep-rooted conversation with these kiddos, and then go on to a different school. So here's some of the lessons that we'll be touching on through Thrive. Stress in the body, right? A lot of them have been told they're not stressed out. They don't know what stress is. You're just a kid. Well, that's what we hear a lot. Well, no, the kiddos deal with stress just as much as adults do. We just do it in a different way. Identify emotions, influence, risk and choices, optimism. It's all building resiliency for their toolbox going forward, right? Giving these kiddos tools to go forward and make right choices, or at least have the opportunity to make those choices, because sometimes they don't get that opportunity. And a lot of the times these kiddos, they're just looking for someone to talk to. They're flat out just looking for someone to have a conversation with them, and sometimes it's not happening in their house. And so with this, and I'll talk about a couple of success stories here in the past. I can go off all day about success stories and the good things I've heard, the bad things I've heard from these kids when they're talking, because they don't have a platform. And this is their platform in a way. So some general things, Michelle touched on it. It'd be a 5-day is what we're focusing on, looking over, possibly start like on a Wednesday, going through the weekend, because a lot of times you can see that the physical education class that we've actually integrated with, it's best suited, being that it's the health standards, right, that we're meeting. And a lot of times we had a little pushback sometimes because hey, we're taking away the kids' activity time. Okay, well, one experience I've had with this is that sometimes class gets over early. We go play basketball with them. We'll go and do sports with them, whatever they're doing, and get that interaction with them. So that's one little nugget we can always do as well. But one big thing, it's no cost to the district. So let's highlight that. It's no cost to the district. It would be grant funded through the Tempe Coalition. Target audience is the 7th and 8th grade age range. I know we talked about focusing on the 8th grade in the coming fall. Because they're getting ready to go to high school. They're starting to see a little more. They think they know a lot of stuff when it comes to 8th grade, right? But it's a good age because they're still willing to listen. That's the biggest thing. Once you get into high school, they're kind of like, I know everything. Don't worry about it. I got this covered. 8th graders are still willing to listen, which is great. The DDRO members, so typically we will wear our uniform, like Naomi is right there. And she's actually part of our teaching team that we have, part of our task force. And when we walk in with the uniform, the first question is, why are you guys here? Right? Why is the military here? But then that's when it opens up conversation. It's an attention grabber, right? I guarantee a lot of people thinking right now, why is Naomi in here with her uniform on? But what it is, it grabs your attention and it gets that respect right out the gate. And that's what we want to focus on, is that respect and have those conversations. So I want to highlight a couple of quick stories. Just read these here. You can see seventh grader at Carson in Mesa. Personal experience shared by our staff. Student walked up and, thoughts of suicide, okay? And unfortunately, it's getting more common nowadays. The student was able to start, through the curriculum, was able to start actually having conversations with their counselor. And that's a big step. It's a big step for somebody that's had thoughts of suicide. And every lesson again they took forward, talk to them more and more to make sure that they're heard. Again, like I said, this is all just having a conversation with them, right? That's all it really is. Again, allowing them to have that platform. Next one, Odyssey. They have an issue with mom and dad at home. A lot of self-esteem issues. Share that she's been harming herself and thoughts of suicide again. And then through the curriculum, through the connections that we're able to make with our kids, able to receive help through counseling and continue to talk with the student, just to mentor a relationship each lesson. A lot of the times, I can tell you right now, all this the experiences I've had through Thrive when I was in those classrooms, that the conversations come after class. Because they're afraid to say stuff in front of their peers. They're embarrassed, right? They're embarrassed that they've hurt themselves or try to hurt themselves or cut or whatever the case may be. When you start making those connections, they start coming up to you after class and start opening that stuff up, that's when you know you got that in. And you made a win with them, and you're able to get far with them. So I just want to I can go all day about success stories with this program. It's a great program. Our team does a phenomenal job connecting with them. And again, I don't want to take too much of you guys' time. So again, thank you for having me here and able to speak. I want to make sure if there's time for any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have some questions.
Of course.
Ms. Yours?
Thank you. Everybody here should probably know by now that I'm extremely passionate about this, and I'm grateful for that entire row that you have right there. You've already made a difference in our community. And I've heard some personal stories. God, I get so emotional over it. I'm so sorry, but it's serious stuff. Our kids are struggling. So how accredited is everyone in the counseling? And because that's what parents are going to want to know. And then when it comes to any counseling that may be needed, do you recommend to our current counselors on campus? Do you suggest? What is the process in order to get them help?
So our process is we are not accredited counselors, right? We are military members with prevention background. If we do we are also all mandatory reporters. So if we do have something like that where we have somebody, hey, I've committed suicide, what do I do? How do I do that? We do direct them to the school administrators through their counselors and take that approach. We're not trained in counseling. We're there just to have a conversation with them and teach them this curriculum. When it comes to actual counseling itself, that's where we ensure that the counselor's involved with this, that we do know. A lot of times too, the counselors actually already know sometimes who the kiddos are, but this just brings it out finally, kind of. So what we do is we'll walk them. I've actually literally walked a kid to a counselor before and just ensure that, hey, this kid needs to be heard. Sit down with this kid. And I've had principals have no idea that the kid was struggling because he didn't want to tell anybody. So I walked him right to the principal's office myself and say, hey, this is the kid that we need to help.
Now, Bernadette might be able to answer this better, but Not My Kid is also a resource that can be extended onto the family that you guys through Thrive can direct them to, right? So that's why this is kind of a coalition of everything that we're wrapping ourselves around with.
If you think about the different interventions that we have in play for our district, Not My Kid is the piece for the drug diversion piece, but they have resources and are presenting to the administrators this Thursday, actually tomorrow, about the drug diversion program and additional resources that they have for families.
Okay. And I'd like to thank you guys because the first event that we had, it wasn't really highly attended, but the parents that were in there really cared. And so I was like, okay, like Mother Teresa, if you can touch one person at a time, you're successful. And you guys recognize that. And then the Frank one, I was like, Michelle, how was the attendance? How was it? And it was bigger, right? So, and now the community is talking about it. And that's how I know some stories, because they've mentioned meeting this cool guy, Tommy, they think are really cool, which I do too, so it's all good. And so it's opened up conversations with teens that are in my world. So I'm grateful that we're seeing this at a 7th and 8th grade level now too. It's very, very important. And I'm just grateful for you not giving up on us from the first. I think it's going to be baby steps, because I don't think the community understood how big of a deal this vaping is and this fentanyl. And then, I mean, we always said, oh, they're smoking and drinking. No, and you're smoking, vape is 60 cigarettes in a vape. I was like, what? I mean, I didn't even know that. So just hang in there with us, and thank you for continuing to be there with us, and keep taking care of our kids. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was an honor. I was at those presentations, and we had some really great conversations with parents.
Yeah,
That was
I
actually
mean, they were really good conversations,
They were.
and
They
I was
were.
grateful for them. I mean, even for myself, I learned a ton, so thank you.
Well, good. Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions from the board or comments? Okay. Yes, Ms. Gormally.
I also wanted to mention that this is an opt-in program, meaning that if families are uncomfortable with having their child go through the curriculum, or they're not ready for that, we will get parent permission before anything is implemented.
Thank you. You just asked my question, whether it was answered my question about opt-in. And I've worked with Not My Kid before, and very closely with academic intervention kids, and phenomenal organization as well. So it's really great to hear that they're involved. Thank you very much for the presentation. We're looking forward to the partnership.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help. Thank you.
Item 7.01, open call to the public. We have no blue cards, so we're going to skip that section. Item 801. Mr. Thompson, I believe that's you. Discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the proposed 23-24 school district annual budget.
All right. President Windsor, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, thanks for having me tonight to talk about the budget for next school year. So it is kind of a two-part process for the budget. We've got a proposed budget and adopted budget, so kind of think of it like the policy first read. So this is the first read, then we give it more time, and then we come back for the actual adoption of the budget a couple weeks from now. So proposed budget tonight, it is essentially the budget forms that the state had that came out late May, so got them together. Luckily, they got it out in time so that we could do it for the June meetings. Otherwise, we would have had a special one. So we'll do the proposed budget today. We send out the notice of public hearing, and then we do the public hearing and adoption of the budget on the next meeting on June 21st. So that's kind of the process for it. Has to be done by July 15th, but these are the last two meetings we have before that, so we're doing it now. So these are the legislative changes that the state passed last month or so before that. So basically, increase the base level funding, 2.92%. The minimum they had to increase it was 2%, so just a smidge more than the bare minimum by law. That gets us about $1.5 million in additional funding. They also increased the district additional assistance almost 10%, so that's a pretty significant bump. It's a lot smaller that we get every year, so that's only about $300,000 in additional funding for that, and it looks at last year's enrollment numbers as well, so it's a little different on the formula in there, last year's ADM numbers. And then they did put one-time funding in, so they gave $300 million to be divided on a pro rata basis, so basically on the ADM across the state for that $300 million. So our portion is about $2.6 million for that. That's one-time funding, so that's in the budget this year, but it's not something that you can, it's not sustainable. So if we put salaries in there, well, now you've got salaries in there that's not gonna be supported next year because that funding is gonna go away. So it's nice to have, but it's not gonna grow the base, it's not gonna grow over time, it's just there, it's a flash in the pan, there and done. So better to have it than not, but I would have preferred it in the base. So this is a breakdown of the different categories that we've got in there. So you can see the big chunk that really is increasing it this year is that one-time funding. That 2.6 million is a good chunk in there. The revenue control limit, that's our main thing. So that's when you get the 2%, the 2.9, that when you're talking 70 million, that goes a lot further than, increasing the district additional assistance when that's only 5 million. So not nearly as much. So one thing I will say though is there is a difference between the budget formulas and these budget forms and the actual staffing. So we're gonna budget in these forms to the maximum capacity because that's what we basically have to do for the state, and we have to fill in everything so it sums up to that total. Now, we're not gonna actually staff and spend all of those because you need a little bit of cushion, especially because of current year funding. So we're projecting our enrollment, and that's what our funding is on. Our enrollment will likely decrease a little bit. It could decrease a lot, it could go up, but it's hard to really have that exact prediction in there, so we like to have a cushion in there. The cushion for either, the enrollment changes or just maybe you have some additional expenses in there that you were not anticipating. Like in the past year or so, we had a lot more contractor expenses for special education. We couldn't hire those positions, so we had to go out and still provide those services, so we got contractors. Well, those contractors are at a much higher rate than if we had been able to hire those people. So some additional costs that you might not have had normally. So having that cushion is a nice thing. So you might look at the budget and say, oh, it's gonna go, your capacity, your budgeting for all that. It's in the budget form, our staffing is gonna be a little different on that. And we'll get into that more on the next meeting, and you really do a very deep dive into the budget on there. But like I said, with the current year funding, that's a moving target. You're gonna have the enrollment go up and down. So we're gonna have revisions in December and revisions in May because our enrollment will be changing over that time frame. Tax rates, something everybody's always interested in. So tax rates are projected to go down. A few reasons for that. As the assessed value goes up, if you need the same amount of money, the rates go down. And so the assessed values have been going up in Tempe and most other places in Arizona. So those going up lower our rates. The qualifying tax rate, that's set by the state. That decrease, that's kind of goes along with, all right, the assessed values are going up, so the qualified tax rate can go down. Another area, we were able to eliminate $900,000 that we had taxed previously the last 2 years for adjacent ways. So that's usually any access to sites like the driveways, the exits, access to utilities, those kind of things. And we use a lot more of those when we're doing construction of buildings, for example. So the Mosley builds, or the Franks, the Nevitts, the McCameys, we'd have to spend some money on that. And it's one of those where when we need it, we levy the tax, and when we don't, like next year, we won't need to levy any, so we're not going to levy any. So that was $900,000, almost $1 million that we were taxing the public that we will not tax next year. Lower tax rate does not always mean lower taxes, because if your value is going up and if your value is going up a lot and your rate's going down a bit, it kind of offsets on that. So I don't want everyone to go and say, he said my rates or my taxes are going to go down. Like, your rates will likely go down. But then the other part is Tempe Elementary is just a part of your tax bill. Tempe Union, the city, there's tons of special districts, whether it be flood control, the water, health districts, library districts. The schools are the bigger chunks, so don't get me wrong, we're still the big part of the taxes, but Tempe Elementary is not the only thing out there, so even if the Tempe rates go down, others could balance that off. But overall, I'm happy that the tax rates are probably gonna be going down a little bit. That's not quite set, we still gotta work with the county on the full get all the information about delinquencies and that kind of thing. So I don't want to get quite a number there yet, but it should look like it should be going down a little bit. And then the next step, so the June 21st meeting will have the budget on there to adopt it. And also, I'm going to be presenting a 3-year budget projection, kind of look at the big picture, because as we've been talking, we kind of, this ESSER money we've had has kind of kicked the can down the road a lot. And so we've got these projections out there showing you, okay, this is what we're really looking at. You know, we can do this for a little bit. We've got some good surplus that we've been able to acquire through ESSER that we've been able to get, but ESSER's going to run out, and so this will kind of show that projection for, okay, if we don't do anything, what's it going to look like next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. So it kind of will give you a better perspective on kind of the total budget position that we'll be in. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer any.
Mr. Lemon has a question.
Thank you very much. I really appreciated getting this early, so I could be at home and actually study it over the weekend before I had to leave, or Monday, whenever we got it. And it's in Excel, and it's just terrible to do in Google, or Google Sheets, or whatever. Yeah.
I'm a big Excel fan.
But I also noticed you froze the numbers on it, so I couldn't mess around with it. But that's okay. But thank you, Eric, very much. And I'm looking forward to this 3-year presentation, you know, kicking the can down the road. So
Yeah.
thank you much.
All right, Mr. Miller, no? Okay. I was wanting to know, we talked last time about the budget and the board discussed hiring a demographer. Is there any movement on that? There's lots of fingers pointing.
Actually, yes, I met with Rick Brammer from Applied Economics, and we have a quote. I've shared it with Dr. Driscoll, and we're just working on the timeline.
Great. Thank you for that. Yeah, because we think between the 3-year projected budget and then the demographer's report, I'll get that word down eventually, that would give us a really clear picture of what we need to do to be fiscally prudent. And then for this is a approval for the proposed budget.
Yes.
Correct, okay. So may I have a motion for possible approval of the proposed 23-24 school district annual budget? Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Item passes 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
It's your first budget. Item 802, discussion, consideration, and possible approval to pay the superintendent his performance-based pay pending satisfactory performance on the superintendent's evaluation. May I have a motion or discussion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the performance pay for Dr. Driscoll. And as I've often said, I didn't hire him, but I'm glad to work with him. And everybody else, we benefit from his hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Or discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes 4-0. Item 803, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IGA curriculum development. This is second read, so the first time we read through, we did not have any proposed edits at that point. So anybody want to say anything about it this time around? Okay, with no comments or questions, may I have a motion for the proposed changes?
I motion to approve 8.03, the second review and adoption of the proposed changes for the governing board policy IGA curriculum development.
Thank you, Ms. Ures, and a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lemon, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, item passes 4-0. 804, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IGD curriculum adoption. Any questions, concerns, edits?
Madam President, I move approval of IGB curriculum adoption, the changes to that.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon, and a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, item passes 4-0. Item 805, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IJJ, textbook supplementary materials selection and adoption. Any questions, comments, edits? Or motion?
Madam President, I move adoption of the changes to IJJ textbook supplemental materials selection and adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon.
Second?
Second by Ms. Ewers, all in favor? Aye. Aye, item passes 4-0. Item 806, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy JLCD, medicines, administrating medicines to students.
Madam President, I'd like to approve 8.06, second review and adoption of the proposed changes to the JLCD, medicines administrating medicines to students. Very important.
Dr. Driscoll has something to say?
Yeah, at our last meeting, you guys asked me to find out about the parent. And so I did some digging. And so in our manual, it is interpreted that parent or legal guardian, the term parent refers to parent or legal guardian, and a legal guardian is a person to whom custody has been given by order of the court. So throughout our manual, you see parent means parent or legal guardian. And there's a state statute that says the same, 15341, parentheses 34.
So it doesn't need to be.
It doesn't need to be changed, because it's already, at the introduction of our manual, it says that when you see the term parent, it refers to parent, legal guardian, or who have custody.
Thank you, Dr. Driscoll. Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, item passes 4-0. Thanks for the clarification, Dr. Driscoll. Item 901, reports from standing committees. I don't believe we had any meetings. Okay, so we're gonna skip to 1001. Board members' points of information. Drum roll, please, we're at the end. Yeah, it's not even 7 o'clock. Mr. Lemon.
I was very pleased to see that we hired a principal for Shamley, and that's really great. I'm looking forward to chatting with her before she meets all the teachers, or maybe she'll meet them before we chat, but I figured that's it. And I was also pleased to see the presentation from the Thrive people. Is it Thrive? On the fentanyl. And, you know, I've been in southern Arizona the last couple days, and we were going through one of those checkpoints, and of course, one of the dogs, they're not looking for people, they're looking for drugs. And they're very effective. This program is doing good and making a difference, and particularly in southern Arizona on the Tohono Reservation or Nation and other places. And I'm glad they're doing it, but when I had to do this stuff when I was in the military, it was all about, don't do this and we're gonna test you and you're getting in trouble. But nobody ever had the idea of how do you avoid the conflict? How do you solve it? How do you resolve it? And I think that's so important, particularly for middle school kids. And the final thing I was gonna say is at Shamley, there's one of the facilities in the neighborhood that brings people in, particularly off other parts of Arizona, particularly off Native American communities. And there's a lot of kids that come to Shamley as a result of that. And it's a residential program for several months. And so those kids cycle in and cycle out. So it's going to be a challenge, particularly from that standpoint. But I'm so glad they get to come there. And I hope we can talk about focusing some attention with these kids, because they really need it, and there's quite a bit of turnover with those kids throughout the year because of the situation with their parents, but they do come as a family unit. So that's all. Thank you, Madam President.
Lemon. Ms. Ewers.
I'd just like to thank everyone who is here and during the summer. A lot of people think that the schools just kind of shut down and we don't do anything, and this is when we're getting like tons of productivity. And there's a lot of teachers and principals that are on campuses and our cleaning crews and our food services. And so I just want the community to know that we don't stop working for our kids even through the summer. And I want to thank everybody who's sacrificing some times with their families for that. And I was very happy to see the Thrive presentation, and I'm grateful that people are supporting the need to do something. The top largest communities in the United States are seeing a death from fentanyl, a death or a tragic result with long-term consequences, specifically from fentanyl, every 3 minutes. So it's just getting to be more and more and more. And I talked to a couple police officers and firefighters, and they said some of these kids who are home, they're kind of bored, fentanyl's cheap, they just want to sleep, they can't sleep at night, they're worried about things. They're seeing an uptick right now, and so please just continue to talk to your kids about not taking anything, and try to open up the communication. Like Tommy said, try to open up the communication as much as you can at the dinner table. I think that's our war on this. So thank you, everyone here, for supporting that, and thank you, Michelle, for bringing in some very valuable resources to our community. And to our parents are grateful too. They just didn't know, and neither did I. So thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Shores. You good? Okay. This week, or this last couple weeks, I was able to visit with the team, the district leadership team, the Cherry Creek Innovation Campus, which was a phenomenal experience. The location itself is just one of those opportunities for students that you don't see regularly. I've been explaining it to people as EVIT on steroids. It was phenomenally well thought out. The amount of industry partners that they have fueling it in both donations and support and expertise was phenomenal. The assistant superintendent who showed us around just blew my socks off. She was incredibly intelligent, and her breadth of knowledge was just incredibly vast. And looking forward to seeing some of those ideas implemented into Tempe Elementary. I especially appreciated the time that I got to spend with the district leadership team. I have not experienced such a highly energized, intelligent, and effective team like I got to experience last week. And I felt very blessed to be allowed to join along with them. And then I was also able to visit Mosley and tour that. I have not been on that campus, even though I drive by it every week. And it was fun to go through and see all the concepts that we have talked about and we have approved and see it implemented. It looks like it's going to be a facility that not only is going to serve our students well, which of course is the primary purpose, but will be a real draw for the community, which I am super excited about. It's a real landmark school for us. And then there's one other thing. Oh, I wanted to ask Dr. Driscoll if we would like to include in next meeting's agenda a year one review of our strategic plan timeline. Because I was just kind of looking at it, the 5.1 implement social and emotional learning programs and practices that are developmentally and culturally appropriate. Thrive goes along right with that. And I know we have lots of other things that have been happening and checking off that list of things that we're trying to move forward with improving our school district. And I think that's like the thing that struck me the most last week was having the right people in the right positions for the next phase of Tempe Elementary. And that was exactly what I saw, watching them interact with each other. The amount of professional respect that everybody has for each other, and the encouragement to keep on dreaming and strategizing was just phenomenal. It was really exciting, so. All right, with that, we're going to move to announcements. There will be a board retreat on Thursday, June 8th from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Little America Hotel in Flagstaff, Arizona. And then the ASBA Summer Leadership Institute will be held June 8th through June 10th at the Little America Hotel in Flagstaff, Arizona. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting will be Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 at 6 PM here in the Karen Arredondo Governing Board Room. And that leads us to 12:01, meeting adjournment. May I have a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned.